Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Shri Chinmaya Yatishasya Gurum Vande Tapovanam Tam Himavad Vibhutim Vai Jnana Vairagya Rupinam Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om, my humble pranams to you all. Today with Bhagwan's grace and Puja Gurudev's blessings, we are starting the study of a new Upanishad, Prasnopanishad. The talk today will be only an introduction. We won't be doing any mantras, but the introduction I will divide into 4 parts so that we can keep track of what we are studying. So first one will be why to study the Upanishads. You know, people say, what am I going to get or why to study? So that is number 1. Number 2 is the Vedas. We'll talk a little bit about the Vedas and all the divisions. We know most of it, but I'll just briefly summarize. And what do the Vedas do? What does the study of Vedas do for us? The third part I will cover is a little bit about the nature of Brahman, which we will cover throughout today's talk and also, of course, throughout the Upanishad. So that we will cover. The fourth will be what is the practical benefit of studying Upanishad? They say, isme kya milega? What am I going to get? Am I going to make more money? Am I going to be more successful? How will it help me in the world, in my day-to-day dealings? And, you know, that is a valid question. There's nothing wrong with that. And the last part will be our homage to Puja Gurudev for giving us this knowledge. So the first question is, why study the Upanishads? So the people give different reasons. You know, some people say, I've heard Upanishad knowledge is very great, you know, and it is studied by intellectuals and scholars. So I'm an intellectual, I'm smart, so I can study the Upanishad. So they do to validate their own self-esteem. Others study because I have already studied, you know, 5 Upanishad. I should study 1 more, you know, check mark. 5 ho gaya, abhi number 6. You know, that is the purpose. Or some others study to criticize the Upanishads, you know, like the Western scholars. They studied, they never even came to India. They never even, just by looking at some translation of Sanskrit to English, some grammar rules, they said, oh, this Upanishad is a blabbering of some lotus eater sitting in the forest. So maybe I think I'm smart, so I can criticize, you know, this knowledge. Or some people study the Upanishad to make a living. I can become a teacher of Upanishad and people will come and touch my feet and offer Guru Dakshina. Or I'm a professor of Sanskrit and, by studying Upanishad, I can teach. So I'll get a promotion. So there are different reasons. The best one is I have nothing else to do. So time pass ke liye, let me study. At least dekhe to sahi Upanishad mein hai kya. That is the best reason that people use. Okay, I have nothing else to do. Khali baitha hu, let me study the Upanishads. But why do we study the Upanishads? So it is said very clearly, Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. Upanishad is the pramanam, is the means of studying self-knowledge. It is the method, it is the proof. It is like I want to study physics. So what will I do? I'll take up a book written by some great physicist, study the theories of Einstein or, all those laws of gravitation. If I want to study medicine, I will take up Gray's Anatomy or Best and Taylor, like that. So if I want to know who I really am, that is the goal of studying Upanishads. And what happens is that as compared to other knowledge, as compared to physics, by studying physics, I don't become physics, right? Or I don't have to change my lifestyle to study physics. I can keep doing whatever I have been doing, whatever, eating, drinking, gambling, it doesn't matter. I can be a great physics scholar. But they say that once you study Upanishads, you become that. You become that which is the subject. So you have to change your lifestyle if you truly want to live the knowledge of the Upanishads. If I truly want to know and live the Upanishads, I have to develop the sadhan chatushtaya, the qualities of vivek, vairagya, shat sampatti, all those qualities of the seekers, I have to develop. So that is the difference between secular knowledge and spiritual knowledge. In spiritual knowledge, it changes who you are. If it doesn't change, then the purpose of that knowledge has been defeated. Then all the things I acquire in the world, say I become a physics professor and I get a nice job and I buy a car and I buy a house. What do I do that for? Happiness, right? Any material pleasure I acquire, it is that this material pleasure will give me happiness. I buy a new car, I buy a new piece of jewelry or a new sari or new house, all those give me happiness. But the scriptures tell us that happiness from those is temporary. Like say I'm drinking a cup of coffee, in the morning I'm used to having coffee. So while I'm sipping coffee, it tastes so good. And then when it finishes, then the happiness is gone. And a few hours later, I need another cup, or the next morning I have a severe headache. So any happiness that we acquire in the world is extrinsic. It is temporary and it is given by that object. It could be any object. It could be a position, could be a power, could be name and fame, could be conquering another country. So all those joys that we think are joys are dependent on something outside. But what the Upanishads tell us that your nature is Paramananda. And what is the purpose of Upanishad? Paramananda Sukha Prapti Atyanta Dukha Nivritti. So getting the Paramanand, that is my true nature. I am of the nature of Anand. That's why they say I am Sat Chit Anand, because Brahman is Sat Chit Anand and Brahman is my true self. So my nature also is Sat, permanent existence, Chit, knowledge, and Ananda, bliss. So Upanishads tell us that that is your nature and you do not need to look for happiness either in a person or a place or a position, power, situation. Yeah, you need all those things. We're not saying that in a human body. You don't need all those things. But I don't depend on those things for my happiness. And because I am of the nature of bliss. And Upanishads also tell us that the happiness is inside, it's not outside. Even books of psychology, even the modern scholars all say happiness is inside. So question is, where inside? Inside this body? Inside this mind? If it was inside this body or inside this mind, then it would become limited. It is unlimited happiness. The mind and the body and the intellect are in that happiness, in that bliss. So bliss is not in us. We are in bliss. We are a part of that bliss. So that is in very brief, the knowledge of the Upanishads. You say, well, can I not get this knowledge from Bhagavad Gita and from other scriptures, from Brahma Sutras and, yes, you can, Vivek Chudamani. But what the masters tell us who have written those texts, that everything has come from the Upanishad. Even Bhagavan Sri Krishna, when he revealed the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, he always quotes the Upanishads, the Katha Upanishad, the various Upanishads. So because that is the ultimate. So, and when he says ahuhu in Bhagavad Gita, what he means, they say. Who say? The masters of the Upanishads. So unlike other scriptures which have come from one prophet, Quran came from Muhammad, Christianity came from Jesus. Our scriptures owe their origin to several masters, hundreds of masters who over thousands of years have experienced this knowledge themselves in their meditation. And this knowledge was revealed to them. That's why we call Upanishad Shruti, that they heard this knowledge in the depth of their meditation and they passed it on to their students. So that is how the Upanishads were revealed. Now, why should we follow the spiritual path? So it is said that human beings have the choice. Kartum, akartum, anyatha kartum, means I should do this, I should not do this, or I should do it in my own way. I don't have to follow. So only humans have been given the choice that at every step of the way, we have a choice whether to do it, not do it, or do it in a different way. Everybody has been doing this way, I'll do a different way. So animals don't have that choice, birds, plants, fish don't have that choice, but humans have that choice to choose how I am going to live my life. Now, this 1 hour that we are sitting here discussing Upanishads, we could be, having lunch or watching TV. So we have made this particular choice. Yes. But why does the student come to the teacher? As we said, the Upanishads were revealed by the teacher to the student. Upanishads were revealed by the teacher to the student. So why did the student come to the teacher? So that is another question. Why was the student there? So in the Mundak Upanishad, it is said very beautifully. In fact, the Prasnopanishad is a further commentary on the Mundak Upanishad. The ideas of the Mundak Upanishad are further explained in the Prasnopanishad, which we will be starting. So it is said in the Mundak Upanishad very beautifully, Pariksha Lokan Sarvachitan Brahmana Nirveda Aya Masti Akrit Kritena Tad Vijnartham Gurumevabi Gachet Samit Pani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtham. So the student of the Upanishad is not coming there because he's a failure, he's a useless, like people will tell Swami Tejomayanandaji, sometimes they will come and say, Swamiji, my son, he cannot get a job anywhere, he cannot even pass college. Why don't you take him in your mission and make him a Swami? So people think that those who are failures in life should go and study this knowledge. And it has happened many times to Guruji. He has told us many times. He says, people come all the time and tell me that my son is useless. Why don't you take him in your mission? So the person who has come to the teacher is not a failure in life. He's not escaping. It's not that his wife left him or his girlfriend, told him, I don't love you. So out of, that he's coming, or because he couldn't accomplish any other goal, that's why he's coming. So it said here, Pariksha Lokan, he has seen the world, he has experienced the world. In fact, the 6 students who study the Upanishads in this Prasnopanishad were all highly evolved scholars. They had studied the Vedas, they had done upasana. Some of them even had darshan of Bhagwan. They had even seen Bhagwan himself, whatever their Ishta Devta was. But still, they needed that final knowledge. And that is why they approached the Upanishad, the teacher. That in fact, like in the Kaivalya Upanishad, I was reading, Ashvalayana, who is the student, approaches Brahmaji himself. And Ashwalayan was not an ordinary student. He had composed many of the mantras in the Vedas. He has done all that, and still for the ultimate knowledge, he has come to the teacher. So Pariksha Lokan Karma Chitan Brahmana. And he understands that karma nakrit kritena. By karma, I cannot achieve that Brahman. No matter how many pujas I do, how many karma yoga I do, those are very important. Doing puja, doing karma yoga, because they help to purify the mind. But ultimately, all of those should lead to knowledge. We also studied in the Ishavasya Upanishad that action and knowledge should go together. Ubhayagam saha. So rituals and service will purify the mind, and then such a person becomes fit for study of the Upanishad. So he has seen the world. He has realized that action will not get me the highest. Then he approaches the Guru humbly. And how does he approach? Samit Pani. Samit Pani means he comes with twigs in his hand, a bundle of twigs on his head, dry sticks. Now, why would he bring dry sticks to the teacher? So there are 2 reasons. One, the practical reason is that it used to be very cold in the Himalayas in that night. And so, so the Guru can light a fire in the ashram. So the stick will help the Guru. But the symbolic meaning of Samit Pani is that these dry sticks are like my vasanas. They are ready to be burnt, and only that little spark of knowledge will start the fire and dissolve all my remaining negativities. So it's a very beautiful metaphor of why the student approaches the teacher with a bundle of sticks. And then what is the teacher? He says, Shrotriyam Brahmanishtham. The teacher is not only has the knowledge, but he is able to explain it, and he himself lives the knowledge. See, a lot of times we find that there are Sanskrit professors who know all the Sanskrit grammar, know all the Upanishads, they can chant it, they can even teach it, but they themselves don't have the highest experience. Or there are other great Mahatmas who have reached enlightenment, become one with God, but they don't really have much of an ability to teach, and they just stay in their samadhi and bless the world by that. But here, the Upanishad teacher has both. He is Shrotriyam, he has the knowledge, he has the ability to teach, and Brahmanishtham, and he himself has experienced this truth. So the student has developed vairagya, and that is very, very important for spiritual study. I must have vairagya. Vairagya, again, does not mean that I have to give up all my possessions, but mentally I should give up my dependence on objects, things, position, or people for my ultimate joy. And so through detachment, only you can attach to the higher. That's what Gurudev says. Detach from the lower and attach to the higher. You cannot hold on to both. You cannot say, I also want the world and I also want Bhagwan. You have to choose. And even yesterday, on Sunday in the Bhagavad Gita, we said that that mai ananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini. You have to have total surrender, total love for me. And when this person studies the Upanishad, why does he study that? So it is said in the Upanishad, Bhumai va sukham na alpe sukham asti. The final truth. See, when we look for happiness, do we want temporary happiness or permanent happiness? You ask anybody, okay, I'll give you happiness for 1 month and then you will be miserable for 6 months. Say, no, 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 no. I want permanent. Okay, I'll give you 5 years. After 5 years, you'll be miserable. No, 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 no. I want permanent happiness. So the world will never give you permanent happiness. If you want permanent happiness, you can only find it bhumaha, in the infinite. If you want infinite happiness, look in infinite. Na alpe sukham asti. Whatever is limited will only give you limited happiness. And everything in this world is limited. There is nothing of this world because the world itself is temporary, is changing, is perishing, and one day will end. And you and I also are changing, and eventually our body will drop. So any physical or mental comforts will not give you that bhuma, that infinitude. So what they say is that you have to negate these conditionings. As we said, these dependencies on by getting this or that, I will be happy. So this is about why study the Upanishads. Now, a little bit about the Vedas. Of course, everybody knows there are 4 Rig, Sam, Yajur, and Atharva Veda. And then they are divided into 3 portions: the mantra portion, the Brahmana portion, which is the mantras are the rituals done to propitiate for praising nature. The mantras are the Brahmanas for propitiating God. And then the Upanishads are the knowledge. And as we talked last week, the Vedas were scattered, and Ved Vyasji is the one who organized them into the 4. Now, the Veda, the root is vid. Vid means to know. So they say, when were the Vedas? When were they created? So we say the Vedas are eternal. This knowledge of Brahman was always there. And Gurudev in his commentary says, when was electricity? Electricity was discovered 200 or 300 years ago by Faraday, but the knowledge of electricity was always there. But even electricity is limited. The knowledge of the Vedas, the infinitude, is there even throughout, even when there is a pralaya, when the whole universe ends, the Vedas do not end. The knowledge remains, and when the new kalpa comes, new creation comes, the knowledge manifests again. It's like I go to sleep, and I go to sleep as a doctor with some medical knowledge. I don't get up as an engineer. No, I continue my medical or my engineering or pharmacy or whatever. So this is infinite knowledge because it is the Lord himself. It is said very beautifully, Yasya Nishvasitam Veda. The breath of the Lord is Veda. The Vedas is nothing but his breath. So how a person and their breath, can they be separated? Can I be separated from my pranas, from my breath? No, only at the time of death. But Bhagwan is eternal, and so his breath is eternal. So the Vedas are eternal. And people say, through logic, I can prove the existence of God, or I can disprove the existence of God. Logic is very limited. And it changes. Like one time we believed the earth is flat. Now we know the earth is round. In the previous time, they used to say everything revolves around the earth. Now we know that. A lot of things that we took for granted are changing. Even Einstein's theory, a lot of things have been proved, but they are finding that there are certain things which can be described differently. So everything in this world is not, logic alone cannot prove that. Logic can prove this world, but then logic can be proved in both ways. The same argument, many times in school, we do this mock trial and all, and the students are given a debate. So they're given a topic and they are asked to debate for and against. So logic can be used for something or against something. Secondly, for me as a human, it is impossible to know everything. Even a specialist may be a specialist of gastroenterology, or he may be a PhD in computers, or he may be, a PhD in biophysics or in chemistry or pharmacology. But even a specialist cannot know everything of his own limited field, because there is so much new literature coming out, so many new things coming out. So it is impossible. So how can I know all? So that's why in Chandogya, the father asked the son who has come back, did the teacher tell you that knowing which everything will be known? And he said, no, my teacher didn't tell me that. So he had not actually paid attention. So what they say is that the buddhi, the logic is very limited, because my buddhi is so small compared to the infinite consciousness. Even this whole earth we cannot comprehend. And they say in the entire universe, earth is like a speck of dust, does not have any existence compared to the entire universe. So in this earth, who am I? Look at everything in this entire, I think I am very great and I do great things. But actually, if you look at it even in the earth, I am nobody. I'm 1 out of 7 billion. And even the earth is nothing in the totality. So what this does is teaches us how to transcend buddhi. See, our intellect is so limited. Not that I'm not saying with the intellect alone, you can study the Upanishads, but then ultimately the knowledge revealed by the Upanishads goes beyond the intellect. So you have to transcend the mind and intellect to understand that which is revealed or that which is pointed to. See, human words can never express this supreme knowledge, but the rishis, that's why Sanskrit is praised as the Dev Bhasha, because the Sanskrit is the closest that you can come to expressing that truth. And that's why this knowledge can only be indicated, but you have to go beyond the mind. So they use the acronym PUT, P-U-T. So P means you purify the mind. So you, by doing karma yoga, you purify the mind. U means unify. And how do you do that? By bhakti. By doing rituals, by chanting the name of the Lord, your mind becomes single pointed. So first the mind has to be purified, then it has to become single pointed, unified. And then T is you then transcend the mind and intellect. And we'll see how this knowledge will try to talk about it. So they say that the knowledge has to be very clear and doubtless. You can't have any doubts. You have to know exactly what the teacher is saying. And your understanding should be very clear. There should not be any, misunderstanding. You have to understand exactly what the teacher is saying. So talking about understanding exactly, there were these 3 men who were sitting in the waiting room of the labor and delivery, and their wives were in labor and, they were going to deliver any minute. And this was in the 1960s, before they had ultrasound and all. So they didn't know. So the nurse would come out and say, congratulations, you have a boy. Congratulations, you have a girl, or, whatever. So these 3 men were waiting for the news, what am I going to have? So the nurse comes and tells the first man, congratulations, you have twins. He said, isn't that strange? I have twins and I work for Double Mint Chewing Gum Company. I work for Double Mint and I have twins. She says, yeah. And then she comes out after a while, tells the second person, congratulations, you have triplets. You have triplets? He says, wow, isn't that strange? I work for 3M Equipment Company and I have triplets. Isn't that amazing? And the third guy faints. He passes out. He's dizzy. And so they throw water on him, wake him up. What happened to you? You were fine so far? What happened? Why? He said, I'm dizzy. I can't breathe. He said, but what happened? Can you tell me what's wrong? He says, I work for 7-Up. So, so, so we have to know what exactly is intended. We should not misunderstand or put our own understanding. So that's why they say, Shravana, listen carefully and then apply this knowledge. And we already talked about the 3 portions of the Vedas. And previously they used to be memorized. People would memorize entire Vedas. That's why it was called, Dvivedi or Trivedi or Chaturvedi or Vedi. One who had memorized 1 Veda was called Vedi. 2 Vedas was Dvivedi. 3 Vedas was Trivedi. 4 Vedas was Chaturvedi. Nowadays, of course, nobody memorizes anything. They just have the last name, Dvivedi, Chaturvedi. He probably has never even know how to spell, Upanishad, but he keeps that name. So the thing was, this was memorized. And as we said, after a certain time, the human mind becomes difficult. Nowadays, we don't even memorize anything. We used to memorize 200-300 phone numbers. Now they're all in my phone. Even my son's phone number, I don't know, or my daughter's or why? It's in the phone. Imagine if the phone gets lost, what will happen? So that's why they say, get in the habit of memorizing so that your brain is used. Then people say, what is the benefit of knowing this knowledge? They say, give me this knowledge, but don't ask me to do all this puja and all. I'm not a ritualist. I am a intellectual. I am a great scholar. I don't believe in all this, like yesterday, this Mahashivratri puja was so beautiful. Whoever attended, people say, I don't believe in rituals. But it's like saying, I'm learning how to swim. I know all the theory, but I don't want to go in the water. How useless is that? So similarly, learning the scriptures should be translated into action, and that is karma and bhakti. So study alone is not enough. Whatever is taught in the scriptures has to come in my action. Just as knowledge of swimming, then I have to enter into the water. And the scriptures have 2 goals. One is to reveal the intangible. That is called Brahman, that is called self, that is called total consciousness. And the second duty, a second teaching of these Upanishad and the scriptures is Dharma. What I should do, what I should not do. So that's what Bhagavan Sri Krishna said in the 16th chapter, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Vyavasthitau. So Bhagavan says, let the scriptures be your guide into Karya and Akarya, what I should do and what I should not do. So that is the second purpose of studying the Upanishads, to know what is Dharma, what is right, what is wrong, what I should do, what I should not do. And so that, and not only that, but a side benefit of studying is that it will make my mind more quiet, more peaceful, and then I'll be a better person to live with. See, otherwise, even in relationships, why is the problem? They say, oh, he doesn't understand me, he has no patience. So studying of these scriptures gives you patience, gives you love, gives you forgiveness, and also gives you concentration doing all this, so that you are able to focus on the other person, on their needs. And also a person who has studied, that's what Gurudev says, a scientist will become a better scientist. A scholar will become a better scholar. A housewife will become a better housewife by having this knowledge, because this knowledge will make your mind purified and unified. It will be focused and you will do what is necessary to be done. So even in worldly relationships, it helps a lot. But that is the side benefit. That is not the purpose of studying the Upanishads. The purpose of the Upanishads is self-knowledge, to know who I am. But if you these other benefits are the side benefits. They are like they come with it, but that's not why you don't study Upanishads to, to develop. But you will do better whichever field you are in. If you are a businessman, you'll become a better businessman. So, and what does this knowledge do? That we have three different defects: mala, vikshepa, and avarana. So what is mala? Mala is dirt. That is the shat vikaras: kam, krodh, mad, moh, lobh, matsarya. So anger, greed, jealousy, arrogance, and all comes from desire. Kama is the root. That's why Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Kama esha, krodha esha, rajogun samudbhavam. So the main problem is kama, is desire, thinking that I am incomplete. And out of kama comes everything else. Then comes greed. Then if I have something and another person has more, there is jealousy. If I have more, it creates arrogance. If I don't get what I want, it creates anger, desire, and it further potentiates the desire. So it leads to more vasanas, more delusion. So kama is the mala, so by doing karma yoga, you reduce all this. You reduce your selfish desire, you share with others, and then all the other five follow. Then the other one is vikshepa. Vikshepa is the disturbance of the mind. The mind is running in 1,000 directions. We sit down and we are not able to concentrate. I'm sitting for puja and I'm already thinking about what I'm going to make for breakfast, or I am sitting for meditation and my mind is already going on, what happened yesterday, what will happen tomorrow. So by doing regular upasana and single pointed focus on the Lord, which can be either a symbol, can be a statue of Sri Krishna, it can be a picture, it can be the sun, sun god when you chant Gayatri. So it can be any symbol of God, which by concentration and focusing upon that, it will reduce vikshepa. So my mind won't run in 1,000 different directions. And the third defect is avarana, that is ignorance. So Upanishads remove the ignorance about who I am. That is my true nature. And they say that there are three states that we know: waking, dream, and deep sleep. We know those three. But Upanishads reveal the fourth state, which is called the Turiya Avastha, which is explained very beautifully in Mandukya Upanishad, these three states and how to go beyond that. And so this Upanishad tells us that all the other three states abide in Turiya. Turiya is the substratum on which my waking, dream, and deep sleep is happening. So the Upanishads reveal my true nature as Brahman. And it appears in the Brahmana portion among the three. We talked about the mantra, Brahmana, and the Upanishad. Actually, it's not in the Upanishad portion, it is in the Brahmana portion. And it is an further commentary on Mundak Upanishad. So it is a further explanation of that. And as we said, it is Sanatan, it is eternal, and the knowledge has come from Guru to Shishya, and also tell us why we do something that we do. People go to the temple and say, Bhagwan, I offer you one coconut. Now give me a job. He says, try going to bribe somebody else with one coconut and asking him for a job, or even 11 coconut. But we think, a coconut de diya, that's enough. Now God should give me what I want, So they say, what is the symbolism? What is the significance of breaking the coconut? This I didn't know when I read it. So it says the coconut has a hard shell, right? Hard shell. So you break it, but you can't break it because there is the husk covering it, right? The husk is covering. And so unless you remove the husk, you cannot break the hard shell. So the husk is my vasanas. So you remove the vasanas, you reduce the vasanas, and the hard shell is my Ego. And that has to break. This idea that I and my, that I am somebody special, I am separate from others. And then when you break the shell of the coconut, you get the white thing. And what is that? That is Vishuddha Buddhi. You get the right knowledge, your right understanding. And on the coconut, there are 3 black dots. They represent the gross, subtle, and causal body. So you have to go beyond the gross, subtle, and causal body, break the intellect. Then you get Vishuddha Buddhi, you get the right understanding. And then that juice inside is Ananda. That is the supreme bliss. So that is the significance of breaking a coconut. Otherwise, we just go bang the coconut. We don't know why we are doing it. So the scriptures reveal all that to us, why we do what we do and how we do it. In fact, in Chinmaya Mission, they have a very small book called Why We Do, which we can give to our children, which tells us how to do these Upanishads. What is the knowledge? And the last, I'll just pay homage very briefly to Puja Gurudev. He has a very beautiful commentary written on the Prasnopanishad, which extends over 25 or 30 pages. I could not cover it today because his language and his mastery and his ability to explain is out of this world, and I don't feel competent to translate that. I would request each and every one of you to get the Prasnopanishad commentary by Puja tomorrow, and they will be coming to the office tomorrow. So if anybody wants, on Thursday, they can meet Neeru. She will be going in the morning to the mission around 10, 11 o'clock. So call her, or you can call Harshaben and collect from her. So you can get this Prasnopanishad and read Puja Gurudev's commentary. Most beautifully, he has given introduction. And we owe a great debt of gratitude to this master who worked not only for self-realization. He said, my goal of life is not only self-realization, but Jagat Hitaya, for the benefit of the world. And he started Samasta Jana Kalyane, and he started this Gangotri project. He called it the Gangotri project. What is Gangotri project? Just as Gangaji starts from Gangotri and goes all the way to the Indian Ocean. And while she is going, she serves millions of people on both sides. So Gurudev said, this knowledge that I got from my guru from the Himalayas, I am going to, not that I means not as out of compassion for us. Otherwise, he could have stayed there in meditation, but out of compassion, just as Mother Ganga gives her water to us out of compassion. So Puja Gurudev gave this knowledge to us and revealed this knowledge through commentaries. And this particular Upanishad was the 5th one he talked about, his 5th Jnana Yajna. In 1951, when he first started teaching, he did Kane Upanishad in Pune, and that was a 100-day yajna. He taught for 100 days every day. And initially, there were only 4 people. He said the 4 people included the speaker. And then by the end of his yajna, by the 100th day, that small place was so crowded, they had to add more tents, and there were hundreds of people. They said, oh, look at this sadhu who is explaining in English. So Prasnopanishad was his 5th yajna. And this commentary they have transcribed those teachings of Puja Gurudev. And this was done in Madurai over 41 days. And so this Prasnopanishad commentary is directly Gurudev's words, not his writing, but what he spoke was transcribed by the listeners and then put in a book form. And Puja Gurudev has revealed, and the masters revealed, that there's more than 280 Upanishads that we know right now. 108 have been very clearly written, but there are 280 available. Actually, there are probably hundreds more or thousands more, because so many rishis revealed it, but because of foreign invaders and people destroying, the Upanishads. And what Puja Gurudev revealed to us is our Gaurav, that we should be proud of our culture, Bharat Gaurav. And that is what is now we see coming back in India also. People are becoming proud of being called Hindus, because this knowledge can give knowledge to the whole world. The whole world is doing yoga, whole world is doing meditation. Where does this come from? Lot of the great teachers of the Western world get their ideas from Upanishads, but somehow, because we were ruled by Muslim Mughals and we were ruled by the British, so they made us feel that we are somebody inferior. Indians are inferior, they are worthless, Hindus are not good for anything. So Puja Gurudev and the other masters gave us pride, that we have to be pride, not in the sense of arrogance or putting others down, but pride in the sense of proud of my culture, proud of my knowledge. So that's why we owe a great debt of gratitude to Puja Gurudev and to the other masters, Shankaracharya ji, Swami Vivekananda, and all the other great teachers and masters who have come over the centuries and given us this knowledge. So again, to summarize, we covered 4 or 5 topics. One is why study the Upanishads? To know who I am and make the right choice. And then we talked about the Vedas, which was the revealed knowledge, which is the breath of God himself. So just as God and breath are one, so the Vedas are the Upanishads. That is our God himself revealed in the world. And this knowledge has to be doubtless, and it helps us in the world also. But the main purpose of this knowledge is to know who I am. And then we talked about our homage to Puja Gurudev and who is this Brahman and what is that and who is this Brahman. We'll be talking all. This Upanishad is quite long, so it will take probably a few months to cover. But today I thought I would just give a brief introduction to what is Upanishad and what is this spiritual knowledge. Next week, we will try to introduce Prasnopanishad itself. What is Prasnopanishad? Who revealed it? Who was the teacher? Who was the students? And so on. And then we'll do the Shanti mantra and maybe talk a little bit about the students. So that's how.
Say the Upanishads are like a mirror. It shows you who you are.
Right. The Upanishad is like a mirror. It shows you who you are. And they say to know yourself, you only need one mirror. So one Upanishad, if you learn properly, is enough. But if you have more mirrors, then you can like see all yourself from front, back, side, everywhere. So the more Upanishads will give us more clarity. See, the same truth is revealed and people say, Are, I have been going to Chinmaya mission for last 30 years. You guys just keep saying you are that, you are that. I have heard that many times. Why don't you say something else? The reason we keep repeating is because I know I am that, but I don't live it. I don't abide in it. I have been told I am Brahman, but I don't know that I am Brahman.
So
that is called
living.
Yeah. One is Paroksha Anubhuti, that is the teacher's knowledge or the guru's knowledge, but it becomes Aparoksha Anubhuti. It has to become my knowledge. So that is the purpose of studying the scriptures. And by repeated listening, this knowledge will become clearer. And slowly, slowly, we can abide in this knowledge where then you practice it constantly. If you deal with these Mahatmas. Now, yesterday, Swami Ishwaranandji, we invited him, just a couple of days back. And he came and how beautifully he spoke a new topic, so that is the glory of these masters. They can reveal the truth to us even at any moment. You just ask them to talk. So that is the glory of this knowledge. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. We have a few minutes. If anybody has questions or comments about what we have talked about or anything else, and then next week we'll continue the study of the Upanishads.
I wanted to say about books. Yes. They are coming on 2nd March. I got confused that March, but tomorrow they are coming.
Tomorrow, yeah. So then Thursday, either tomorrow or Thursday they can collect. Yeah. Right, Thursday they can collect. Thank you. Prashna, that's the book, yes. That's the book, yes. So yeah, please read the introduction of Puja Gurudev. It's about 25, 27 pages, and his language is superb. It's out of the world. It's amazing. So please read it. Yeah.
is it part of the Kaivalya Upanishad? Because
No.
the peace invocation is same as Kaivalya Upanishad.
So what
Doesn't it?
happens is each Veda has a peace invocation, and that peace invocation is throughout the Veda. Like all the Upanishads of Atharva Veda will have the same peace invocation. All the Upanishads of Rig Veda will have the same peace invocation, like that.
But is this one not have the Shrunuyam Devaha?
Yes, Bhadram
Word.
Karnebi Shrunuyam Dev. So it is the same Veda as the Kaivalya Upanishad.
Okay.
I think it
So
belongs to
Kaivalya
Atharva.
Upanishad has also the same peace
Same mantra, because they
invocation.
all belong to Atharva Veda. I think that's.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I have to confirm that. But they all, so all the Shanti mantras of that Upanishad will have the same Shanti mantra. All Upanishads of the same Veda. So Rig Veda has one Shanti mantra, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda. Each of
Right.
those Vedas
Because
have
in
one Shanti
Ishavasya
mantra.
we did a different Shanti
Purnamada,
mantra.
right. So all the mantras of that's Yajur Veda. That's the Shukla
That is
Yajur
Yajur Veda.
So all Upanishads of Yajur Veda will have Om, this Purnamada, like that.
Correct. Now, this Shanti mantra, my father passed away just last year at the age of almost 95. That was taught in the school when he was growing up. He never forgot that. He would recite that.
Very nice.
Almost all the time. Because it's a prayer to God for both teacher and the student, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, we'll do that in detail next week. Yeah, we'll do that in detail. But
Thank you.
It's from the Atharva Veda, and Kaivalya is also from Atharva Veda. So the
thank you.
The Bhadram Karnebi is used in many of them, and then the other one is Om, Purnamada, and so on. Any other comments, questions?
I have a question. It's kind of off topic, but I was just wondering, in any of the Upanishads or any of the writings, is there anything that talks about the kind of governments that were in at the time that the Vedas were written?
Oh, what were the type of governments? No, all of those appear in the other granthas like. In Atharva Veda, the latest one has a lot of talks about science and about politics and about government and about the world, the latest one. But also, then the different masters like Chanakya, he wrote Chanakya's, teachings about how the ruler should rule. So it is scattered throughout that. But the Upanishad themselves, their focus was Brahma Vidya. But there are other parts of the Vedas which tell about Dharma and how to live and what.
Vedas are there. Vedas, they talk about the science of, what is this?
Body, Ayurveda.
Ayurveda, Dhanurveda. And I'm sure in that there is.
Right. So there are Upavedas. As Neeru said, that Dhanurveda is about art of warfare. Ayurveda is about medicine. So there are Vedas which talk about niti, about politics, about how to live and what is the. So those are called the Upavedas. But those are the subsidiaries of the Vedas. But the actual knowledge of the Upanishads is the highest. They don't. That's why the Upanishad doesn't talk about, like in Kaivalya Upanishad, directly he asks. There is no introduction. Directly he asks. Brahma Vidyam Varishtham, please reveal to me the highest truth. And then one shloka by the student and then rest is by the teacher. So the Upanishads don't go into the nitty gritty of, you should help thy neighbor, treat thy neighbor as thyself. And all those they assume that one who has come to the Upanishads has already done all those. See, to come to it's like the qualification. You cannot go to a PhD class unless you have done bachelor's and master's. To study the Upanishad, you should already have done all those things. Live an honest life, be, vivek, vairagya, sadhan chatushtaya, shat sampatti. So all those things we have already developed. So the Upanishad assumes that the teacher, the student already knows that. If he doesn't know it, then he should leave the teacher and go back into the world, study those, and then come. So the Upanishad does not deal with that, no. But the Upavedas do. Does that answer your question, Kerry?
Yes, I was sort of specifically, I was just thinking about the relationship of, if you think about, like the Roman Catholic Church and the popes, basically, and even now in, say, the Muslim countries, the head of the state is the head of the church. And then other religions, like more like the Protestants, they have a real separation between church and state. And I was just thinking about that.
Oh, here, the kings used to have prime ministers and ministers who had studied the Upanishads and were scholars, and they always kept them as advisors and they followed their advice. Look at the life of Dashrath Maharaj or Janak Maharaj. They always had great scholars as their teachers, and they followed their advice. But the teacher himself never became head of any state. They stayed above politics. They studied, but they would advise the king on how to rule. So if the king had a question, he would go to the teacher. Even Bhagwan Sri Krishna himself went, to a teacher. So the teacher did not get involved in politics. No, they were not like the Pope. They didn't try to run the country. They gave advice if asked. And not that because they stayed in the Himalayas, a student had to go through a lot of hardship to reach him. So they already had tested, like Puja Gurudev, when he went to Tapovan Maharaj. Everybody knows the story of how, he had to walk 8 days and then go back. So the point is that they have no interest. They have given up the world. That is called samnyas. They have completely thrown away the world. Yeah, us means to throw. So they have given up the world. So they have no interest in ruling the world or becoming prime minister, president. No, they are happy. But if you approach them, they will reveal the knowledge. That's why it says the knowledge is revealed only to somebody who wants it. So no, they don't become head of the state. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much. Hari Om. See you next week.